Hello, everyone. This week we're going to be previewing the American League Eastern Division of baseball. We'll also have some other NFL news and some Major League Baseball news. Ohtani's debut we'll discuss a little bit. Also, why I feel Joel Embiid should be the NBA's most valuable player and why he won't be. And also some final Olympic thoughts. So the Sports Greeks podcast is coming up right now. Hello, sports fans. This is the Sports Greeks podcast. I am your host, Victor Logothetis. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We're starting off a great week of sports here. I'm going to talk about quite a few things today. So let's get the business stuff out of the way first. I can be reached on Twitter at BigGreek24. The email address is victorlogo13@gmail.com. We have a page for the Sports Greek on Facebook. Go ahead and go on there and like that. We also contribute to a sports blog, Philly Sports Blogs. It's phillysportsblogs.com. Last week, I mentioned on the last episode that I was going to be doing a podcast with a couple of my friends over there at AP Nation. It was the All Pro Nation podcast with Chris and Tanner. Had a great time doing it. The episode was the state of the AFC and NFC East. Again, if you have an opportunity, go over to allpronation.com in their podcast section and check that out. Other exciting developments here for me is I'm now part of the All Pro Nation team. The allpronation.com will be doing some posting some articles on their blog site, and the Sports Greeks podcast will now be part of the APN Radio Network, starting with this week's show. We're very excited about that and the continued partnership with Chris and Tanner. So if you have any listeners from the All Pro Nation family, anybody who's already been following them, welcome aboard. Thanks for downloading and listening to the episode. Feel free to go back and get some of my older episodes, which are also available through the APN Radio Network. So again, we're very excited about that, and we have quite a bit to talk about today. This week, as I already said, is a American League Eastern Division preview, which we're going to get to a little bit later on. So there's some other news that was happening in the world of sports last week. We had the Blake Bortles extension with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bortles had a very interesting clause in his contract that if he was not medically cleared by March 14th, the Jags would be on the hook for a $19 million cap hit this year. Bortles had wrist surgery after his season ended in the AFC Championship game. So the extension basically reduces the number from $19 million down to $10 million, saving the Jaguars $9 million. Say what you want about Bortles. He had an awful first playoff game against the Bills, which the Jags managed to win. He played very well against the Steelers, played very well again against the Patriots. Certainly not the reason why they lost the AFC Championship game. He has 2 playoff wins. That's more playoff wins than Matt Stafford's, more playoff wins than Kirk Cousins, who's due for a huge payday. Rumors there upwards around $30 million once he finally signs. Has more playoff wins than Jimmy Garoppolo. Matter of fact, has more starts than Jimmy Garoppolo for that matter. The 49ers just gave Garoppolo $134 million after 7 starts. Has more playoff wins than Alex Smith, who, once the trade with the Redskins is completed, is going to sign a 4-year extension worth close to $20 million per year. So you see where I'm going with this. So Bortles has a track record. It may not have been the best track record. He's a high draft pick, and the Jaguars feel confident with him now after the playoff run. And the Jaguars have a solid team. No reason why they shouldn't be right back in the playoffs again next season. The Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles are also back in the news. A few things with them. They have hired an offensive coordinator. They have elevated wide receivers coach Mike Groh after 1 season with the team to the role of offensive coordinator. Groh played quarterback and also has some offensive coordinator experience in college with the University of Virginia. Was also on his father's staff with the Jets. Al Groh was a head coach of the Jets for a season, and Mike was part of that staff. Deuce Staley will stay in the fold as a running backs coach and assistant head coach, so he gets a promotion as well. Staley's very well thought of with the Eagles, very well thought of with the running backs. He was responsible for the running back rotation during the games this year. As we all know, head coach Doug Peterson, a former quarterback, is the play caller in Philadelphia, but he felt confident that Groh, as a former quarterback, coming in could fill this position. I think Groh was the right choice I think it'll soften the blow for Carson Wentz a little bit, and losing both Frank Reich, who was the offensive coordinator, now the head coach in Indianapolis, and quarterbacks coach John DeFilippo, who is now the offensive coordinator in Minnesota. So, again, I think the Eagles made the right move there. Certainly we'll see how that happens going forward. One other bit of news with the Eagles, it appears they are ready to promote Joe Douglas into the role of general manager and title, name and title and duties, and elevate Howie Roseman to basically the president of football operations. So that way they get to keep Douglas. He doesn't leave the team to take a general manager's job somewhere else. Despite the role of general manager, Howie Roseman still will have final say on personnel matters. So the Eagles making news with a few moves there. There were quite a few personnel moves in the past week with Major League Baseball as well. However, no movement yet on Mike Moustakas, the free agent third baseman formerly of the Kansas City Royals, or starting pitcher Jake Arrieta or Alex Cobb. All still are unsigned as teams now go into their second full week of spring training, full squad anyway, and as the full slate of both Cactus and Grapefruit League games are starting up. But there were some moves and some signings. We'll go through them quickly. The Reds signed Ben Revere to a minor league contract. J.D. Martinez we'll get to in a moment. Logan Morrison, formerly of the Rays, is signed with the Twins to a one-year deal, $6.5 million. He belted 38 home runs last year, which happened to be more than the 2 years previous combined, where he hit 31. Saquon O, formerly of the Cardinals, had a deal with the Rangers that fell through. He now will sign with the Toronto Blue Jays, it appears. Corey Dickerson was designated for assignment by the Rays and then traded over to Pittsburgh for Daniel Hudson. They also traded Jake Ottorosi, one of their pitchers, to the Minnesota Twins. They picked up C.J. Cron, the first baseman DH, from the Angels for a player to be named later. So Tampa clearly looks like they're in rebuild mode, trying to free up some dollars under the luxury tax cap in Major League Baseball. Seeing what the Yankees and Red Sox are doing, guess they just feel it's time for them to retool. And back to J.D. Martinez, the deal that just seemed to take forever, between being rumored and actually happening. Took a week, but J.D. Martinez was announced in a press conference today. He did sign with the Reds. He was introduced, by the Red Sox today. 5 years, $110 million. The hang-up evidently was something with an injured ankle that he had, that they just wanted to make sure both sides would be covered in the event he were to be injured again. J.D. Martinez more than likely will be the designated hitter most of the time for the Boston Red Sox. That'll move Hanley Ramirez over to sharing time at first base with Mitch Moreland, who was re-signed by the club after a solid year last year. And we'll get a little deeper into the Red Sox later in the show. But J.D. Martinez, 5 years, $110 million, had a fantastic year split with the Tigers and Diamondbacks last year, 45 home runs. So he certainly puts the Red Sox right back in the conversation with the Yankees in that tough American League Eastern division. So let's talk about basketball for a brief moment. Last night, the Philadelphia 76ers, who had a 7-game winning streak going into the evening, lost to the Washington Wizards 109-94. Happens to be the first loss by a professional sports team in the city of Philadelphia since the Eagles won the Super Bowl. The Flyers and Sixers combined were something like 16-0-1 until the Sixers lost last night. The Sixers currently held the 7th slot in the Eastern Conference playoff picture, but from like 4 down to 8, there's about 2.5 games of separation from 4 to 8. So the Sixers were to get hot, they certainly could move up to 5 or 4. And if they had beaten Washington last night, I believe they would have jumped up to 5th in the standings. I'm talking about Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid in the loss last night, 25 points, 10 rebounds. I've been talking about this guy, and he is the franchise for the Philadelphia 76ers. There's no other team that I can see whose success hinges on one guy like the Sixers on Embiid. All due apologies to Ben Simmons, who's been a fantastic player his rookie year. Ceiling is unbelievably high for him as well. But right now, if you take Embiid out, the Sixers are not a playoff team. If you take Simmons out, it would be tough, but I still think the Sixers would make the playoffs because they have Embiid in the lineup. And, they've rested Embiid and this, that, and the other. But my point with the MVP thing is he's averaging 23.9 points per game, 11.2 rebounds per game, it's about 3 assists per game, 31, 32 minutes per game right now. He's starting to play more. He'll probably end up playing about 50 games. In my mind, and I look at LeBron's numbers, he's averaged about 26 points, 13 rebounds, and about 11 assists. And I know that Embiid's not going to win the MVP award. It probably will go to a LeBron or Kevin Durant or Curry in Golden State. And, I understand that. But if you look at one player's value to the team and taking that player away from the team, Embiid is definitely that player. And that's, in my mind, why he should be the MVP of the league. If you take him out of the equation for the Sixers, they're not even remotely the same team. I think they're now 20-11 with him, and that would make 12-15 without him. I mean, it's not a huge disparity. It's only 3 games under 500. But, one game, the last game before the All-Star break against the Heat, he did not play. And Sixers had to dig out of a 24-point hole in the third quarter. You're not going to be able to do that every time you fall under like that. The Sixers looked woeful for the better part of 2.5 quarters, and they didn't have Embiid that night. But they were able to dig out of it and win. I think it was 104-102. But the Sixers could be a very difficult team in the playoffs, especially if they're able to get home court. They haven't lost a game at home since December 21st. So if they're able to get one series and have home court for that at least the opening series, they could win that. They could get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, at that point, you're looking to play in Toronto, Boston, maybe in Cleveland. So that could, that certainly could be a very short run to the Eastern Conference Finals. But they certainly could do it if they get hot at the right time. And with 20-some games left, this is the stretch that the Sixers really need to show what they can do, and an opportunity for Joel Embiid to show what he can do and show everybody why he should be the MVP of the league. And again, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this because he's only going to play probably about 50-some games. But the Sixers right now at 32-26, they got that's 58. There's about 24 games left, so they certainly can make some hay. They can win 45 games, 45, 46 wins. We'll see where that leaves them in the conference for the playoffs. But it's definitely going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting run. But that's my bit on Joel Embiid. I definitely believe he should be the MVP because, again, you're looking at most valuable. It's most valuable to the team. And people argue the most valuable piece all over the place. Many people say that if you're in a last-place team, you certainly should not be the MVP of the league. In this case, the Sixers certainly are not in last place. But I think that if you factor in what Embiid means to the Sixers and the Sixers' success or the chances of their success, he is the MVP in my mind. So before we get into the American League East preview, let's talk a little bit about the Olympics that just wrapped up on Sunday. Great hockey game, the ladies' hockey game, started on Wednesday night, finished into Thursday morning. Thanks to the time delay and everything. But what a game. In case anybody didn't know, the U.S. women's team won their first gold medal since 1998 in a shootout on just an unbelievable shot move, whatever you want to call it, by Jocelyn Lamoureux Davidson. Her sister Monique had tied the hockey game up in the third period, and the move she put on the Canadian goalie in the shootout, was the sixth round of the shootout, was just unbelievable. And you really have to see it. It's 20 years since they won their last gold medal, 98, and it was also the game ended on the anniversary to the day of the U.S. men's team in 1980 up at Lake Placid beating the Russians. And again, that game didn't win them the gold medal. They had to go play Sunday, I believe, against Finland to win the gold medal. So some similarities and some not. But you always remember and have kind of the picture in your mind of Mike Eruzione scoring what turned out to be the winning goal in that game, and the aftermath and seeing the celebration on the ice and everything. I tell you right now, going forward for however the next many years this is, because for the U.S. team, for the women's team especially, they got a huge monkey off their back. They hadn't won a gold medal. It was 20 years ago. They had lost to the Canadians in each of the last few Olympics, including 4 years ago where they blew a 2-1 lead and lost in a shootout. but you'll see that shot, a picture, whether it be still or whether it'll be a video of that shot and that shootout for years to come. It was such an amazing shot. And then, after that shot, it was up to a 20-year-old goalie, Maddie Rooney. I'm sorry, Maddie Rooney had to then make the stop on the next Canadian shooter to ice the game. So it was exciting, that's for sure. But I thought it was a great moment for the Olympics. I remember saying a few shows back before the Olympics even started that having the amateurs play is what this is all about, because you get moments like that. You get moments where for 4 years, these girls, these ladies, these women have trained and have had and they're just working their butts off. Many of them were on the team 4 years ago and have the memory of losing that shootout and not being able to hold on to that lead, and had to carry that to the next 4 years to the next Olympics. So, then to have them come out and beat what is really a very good Canadian team. I mean, they're the two best. They right now are the two best teams out there in terms of Olympic hockey, in terms of that sport. But it was just a fantastic game to watch. And to see the way it ended, it was just unbelievable. It was a great moment. And the other really cool moment actually was the men's curling. They won a gold medal also. So those are kind of mine. And to get to the gold medal round, actually they beat Canada also. But it was just really good to see. It really was in both cases. That was the first time I think the men's had ever gotten to the gold medal round with the curling team, and certainly for the USA women, just a fantastic moment. Just a outstanding game, and again an outstanding shootout, and congratulations to them for bringing home the gold medal. So talking baseball, Ohtani with the Angels made his debut on Saturday as a pitcher, threw 31 pitches over just under 2 innings, gave up a couple of runs, gave up a home run to Keon Broxton of the Milwaukee Brewers. The 31 pitches, I believe 17 were for strikes. He did have some control issues. I think he topped out around 97, and I think his curveball measured in about 69 miles per hour. So, first start, we'll see what happens. He's in the lineup today for the Angels as their DH, batting second. He walked in his first at bat. So he hit 331, I think, last year in 61 games for the Nippon Ham Fighters. Hit 8 home runs. He's a 286 career hitter over there, 500 slugging percentage. The Angels are going to try and use him as both a pitcher and a hitter. I believe they have said they're going to go to a 6-man rotation. The plan is to let him pitch and have him in the lineup except for the day before and day after he pitches, and then try and have him in the lineup as a designated hitter. The trickle down here is that means Albert Pujols will have to play first base, and he's DH'd more than he's played the field the past couple of years. So we'll see. It's a novelty. It's something different. Ohtani's 23 years old. Certainly had some outstanding success in Japan. We'll see if it translates here. It certainly did for Ichiro many years ago, but certainly there have been a lot of others that it has not worked out for. I've never seen a talent like this in terms of being able to pitch and also play an actual position as an offensive player as well. So it'll be interesting to see through spring training how this will go and see what actually happens and see where the Angels are on opening day. Now let's take a look at the American League Eastern Division as we take a look at each of the divisions in baseball over the next few weeks. This week it is the American League Eastern Division, where the Yankees last year, a bit of a surprise, getting all the way to within a win of the World Series, losing to the eventual World Series champion Houston Astros in a full 7 games. So the Yankees come back. They made a big splash offseason, bringing in Mike Stanton to go with Aaron Judge. So they have the 2 top home run hitters from last year in the same lineup. A move that I thought was a little interesting because I didn't think the Yankees needed to do it. I thought they could continue to go. The issue I have with the Yankees, I don't really think their starting pitching is championship caliber. Severino had a great year last year. Gray, after the trade and came over, did not pitch that well for the Yankees. That I thought Tanaka got off to a tough start but finished pretty good. Sabathia, I don't know what to say about Sabathia. He won 14 games and didn't show any sign of his age. He's back on a 1-year contract. Jordan Montgomery, another lefty, he pitched very well for the Yankees last year. I think he went 9-7. for the Yankees, and they've got a fantastic back end of the bullpen with Betances and Chapman as their closer. So that's the good news is their bullpen's fantastic. The starting pitching, Severino did not have a good 16 as an outstanding breakout year last year. Can he do it again? Will Gray pitch more like he did before he came to New York? Will Tanaka be consistent for the whole year rather than spotty as he was last year? But their lineup certainly on paper score a lot of runs. The issue here, it'll be interesting to see which Mike Stanton shows up. Is it going to be the Mike Stanton who was hitting baseballs out of every ballpark last year? Is it going to be the Mike Stanton that can't stay healthy for more than 150, 120 games? And that's going to wear thin very quickly in New York. You got a rookie manager in Aaron Boone, who was a nice player, has never managed at any level, coming out of the ESPN broadcast booth. We'll see how he handles himself in the middle of July when the Yankees are in the middle of a 5-game losing streak, and everybody wants answers. And he's trying to stand up there and tell everybody how great his players are. And Aaron Judge is 1 for 21 with 12 strikeouts, and Stanton hasn't played in 4 days. It'll be interesting to see how Aaron Boone handles that. The Yankees are not without their question marks, as they say. Aaron Hicks had a nice year last year. They were paying Jacoby Ellsbury a ton of money, and he seems to be the odd man out right now. They still got Gardner, who's a solid player defensively and offensively. They got Sanchez behind the plate to see if he can duplicate what he did last year, but defensively he was not very good. They brought in Brandon Drury from the Diamondbacks in a trade last week to fill the void at third base. He has been kind of a utility guy for the Diamondbacks, played more second base than third base. I think he had 16 home runs 2 years ago, 13 last year. Not going to remind you of Greg Nettles defensively, but it certainly gives you a major league caliber bat at the hot corner. You've got Didi Gregorius at shortstop, obviously. First and second base are where the question marks really lie. Can Greg Bird stay healthy? He's got a great swing. He's got power. He plays reasonable defense. At second base, it would appear that they have to fill that void somehow. Danny Espinoza is a veteran that's in camp. He is an outstanding gloveman, has power, doesn't walk, and doesn't have a very good batting average. That was always the knock on him in Washington. Great defense, but offensively, not a lot with the bat other than the home runs. It would appear that one name you're not going to see at second base is going to be that of Gleyber Torres. He more than likely will start off the year at AAA to kind of retard that arbitration clock on him, so they don't have to bring him up and start the arbitration clock early on him. Ronald Torres is the other one. He was on the team last year. He certainly could also play second base. So you have a couple of holes, a couple of question marks there for the Yankees. But again, they're a team that certainly should score a ton of runs. If everybody's healthy and does what they're supposed to do. The projections on them are anywhere from 93 to 94 wins. So I certainly can see that happening. Team I actually like in this division is the Boston Red Sox. If the Yankees, in any way, shape, or form, get off to a bad start, some of their guys underperform, they have some injuries, the Red Sox really are in a prime position to overtake the Yankees here. They just signed J.D. Martinez, so they get real pop in the lineup. Nobody hit more than 25 home runs last year for the Red Sox. You had a few guys that took some leaps backwards. Jackie Bradley Jr.'s power dropped off a little bit. So did Mookie Betts, but Betts is a doubles machine playing in Fenway, hitting the balls off the wall. They've got Benintendi who hit 20 home runs. They've got three guys who are just doubles machines. Two of them are fantastic defenders, and Betts and Bradley. Jackie Bradley Jr. is an outstanding defensive center fielder. Again, he took a little bit of a step backwards with the power, but a solid left-handed bat, and he can chase down everything out there. Betts has a solid arm. And again, just peppering the wall, hitting all those doubles last year, but his power did fall off. He had 31 home runs and 16. The one part of Betts' game that did actually improve, he took 77 walks last year. He had 24 home runs last year and 31 the year before, drove in 102 runs last year, but he certainly walked quite a bit last year. Mitch Moreland, who they re-signed to play first base, Gold Glove first baseman, he career-high 34 doubles last year to go with 22 home runs, and again, he's back in the fold. He'll play most of the time. They're going to use Hanley Ramirez over there as well. I'm sure that they'll get J.D. Martinez out in the outfield once in a while to get Hanley in as a DH as well. So we'll see. We'll see again how that all works out. But the pitching for the Red Sox, to me, is what makes them dangerous. You've got Chris Sale, you've got Drew Pomeranz, you've got Rick Porcello, who fell off last year, won 11-17 after a huge year the year before, winning the Cy Young Award. A little better rotation right now than that of the Yankees. You also have Kimbrel on the back end of the bullpen. Yankees have Chapman, so they both have A++ closers, in my opinion. If they can add a healthy David Price, who went 6-3 last year as a starter fighting off injuries and ended up in the bullpen at the end of the year. So if you can add a healthy David Price to that, then you'd have Sale, Price, Pomeranz, Porcello, and then the fifth stooge can fill out that rotation. They re-signed Eduardo Nunez. He'll start out the year playing second base. He came over from the Giants and hit 321, hit twice the number of home runs that he did with the Giants in about half the at-bats. Really had just a fantastic year. Unfortunately, was hurt at the end of the season and then got hurt in his first at-bat in the division series and was done for the rest of the year. But he'll be the second baseman until Pedroia is back healthy, and that means that Rafael Devers will be the third baseman for the Red Sox out of training camp. They've also got a solid shortstop. You hear about Gregorius and how great defensively he is and everything else, but Xander Bogaerts is a fine shortstop, and unfortunately his numbers have come back a little bit. He hit 320 a few years back, and he hit 290 2 years ago, hit 273 this past year. He had 7 home runs 3 years ago, 21 and 10 last year. Did sock 32 doubles, walked 56 times. So he's a solid shortstop. Again, underappreciated because there's so many shortstops out there now. You've got Hechavarria down in Tampa Bay, who's a great glove guy. You've got Gregorius in New York, who's a good glove guy as well. You've got Machado now in Baltimore is going to be the shortstop, and as good as he was at third base, he's supposed to be very good at shortstop too. You've got Francisco Lindor, who's probably the best defensive shortstop in the American League. You've got Anderson Simmons playing out with the Angels, and of course you've got Correa playing with the world champion Astros. It's a thick field at shortstop, so a guy like Bogaerts, who's just as steady as they come, kind of gets lost in the shuffle there. But I like the Red Sox. Their projections are anywhere from an 89 win up, but with the addition of J.D. Martinez, which was not the case when these projections came out, in my mind, puts them in a position to overtake the Yankees, or at least battle them for the whole year. I think whoever doesn't win the Eastern Division is going to be the wild card team. The next team up is the Baltimore Orioles, and they're a team that I kind of like in the terms of their offense. They're a team that, again, will score runs. They play in a ballpark that's very well suited for their offensive skills, and I think that they're a team that certainly I don't think they compete with the Red Sox and Yankees. Their pitching certainly doesn't put them in that class at all. Could they make a run at the second wild card spot? Sure. I think that they're going to fall short, but they could be entertaining to watch this year. They got 2 prospects. Austin Hayes is 22. He's an outfielder. Hit 33 home runs, hit 317 at a couple different stops last year. Did get a cup of coffee in the majors last year. Played 20 games, only hit about 217. He's going to get a long look in spring training. Chance Sisco is a catcher who's going to get a pretty long look as well. He had 18 at-bats in the majors last year. Hit 2 home runs. Caleb Joseph is the incumbent. So we'll see who wins the job there. If Joseph wins the job, then Sisco could get sent down to AAA, and they go with Andrew Susac, who most notably was Buster Posey's backup a few years ago. But I think he played in Milwaukee last year. So we'll see what happens with the backup catching situation. The Orioles, the rotation is questionable. Okay, there's no doubt about that. You got Dylan Bundy, the youngster, who pitched fairly well. Gausman pitched very well last year. They signed Andrew Kashner, so they're bringing a veteran pitcher there to help out the rotation. The Orioles also brought Tillman back, who 2 years ago won 16 games and 30 starts, and went 1-7 last year. Really just never got on track. So you have Gausman, you got Bundy, you got Kashner, and you got Tillman. Then you've got a host of guys who are just kind of hoping to make the ball club. You got Miguel Castro, who got a brief tryout last year as a starter. He went 3-3 for them, and we'll see what he's able to do in the spring. They've still got Alec Asher, Gabriel Yanoa, Mike Wright, and they've also got one of their top prospects, Hunter Harvey's going to get a pretty long look in the spring as well. So they're all battling for that fifth starter position at this point. Closer Britton is on the 60-day disabled list. It looks like he's not going to be back till May or June, so we'll see how that works out for them. So it looks like the closing duties could be Brack or O'Day until Britton comes back for the Orioles. So for the Orioles, definitely an offensive first ball club. They will play good defense. Chris Davis is a solid first baseman. Defensively, Scope's an outstanding second baseman. Machado is obviously a fantastic third baseman. Should transition over to shortstop fairly well. And Tim Beckham will be the new third baseman in Baltimore. He played shortstop the last part of the season for the Orioles last year. You have an outfield of Mancini, Jones. They're hoping that Hayes can play right field. If not, they have journeyman Colby Rasmus and Alex Presley in camp. Both or one of the other could make the ball club. Mark Trumbo is your DH. He can also play the outfield if need be. Trumbo coming off a down year last year, just hit 23 home runs after hitting 40-plus the year before. Same with Davis. Really, off year, just hitting 26 home runs with a .215 batting average. Machado hit 33 homers. Scope hit 32. 95 and 105 RBIs respectively. You've got all-world center fielder Adam Jones. All he did was hit 26 home runs and knock in 73 runs as well. Trey Mancini had a solid rookie year, 24 homers, 78 RBIs. So they're gonna hit the ball. They also brought Pedro Alvarez back to a one-year deal as well. He can be a DH, left-handed bat off the bench. He's got tremendous power. So that's where the Orioles are going to go. If they get any kind of pitching. If Gausman can continue to improve, as he has, if Bundy can step up, if Tillman returns to form, if Cashner becomes what he was in San Diego a few years ago, the Orioles actually could be a pretty fun team to watch and could actually make a run of the second wild card. Their projections run anywhere from 72 to 74 wins. I'm willing to take the over on that just because I think they'll score a lot of runs. They do play in a tough division. Got to play with the Yankees and Red Sox, and that's just not going to be very easy for them to do. But I think they'll be a lot of fun to watch, and I think that they could make a surprise run. Next, you have the Toronto Blue Jays. They were 76 and 86 last year, dropping to fourth place. Gone is Joey Bats, Jose Bautista. He won't be back. Their outfield now will be newly acquired Randall Grichuk. He'll play left field. Kevin Pillar is one of the best defensive center fielders in all of baseball. He'll be in center field again. And the Grandy man, Curtis Granderson, signed a contract with the Blue Jays after finishing the year up with the Dodgers last year. He'll play right field for the Toronto Blue Jays. Last year, the Grandy man hit 26 home runs combined with the Mets and Dodgers. We'll see what he's got left. Not a real high batting average. Still draws a few walks. Still hits those timely home runs. As a matter of fact, he led off first spring training game with a home run against the Philadelphia Phillies last week. The Blue Jays also returned perennial MVP candidate Josh Donaldson to play third base. After that, you've got a lot of question marks. Russell Martin is getting up there in age behind the plate. Justin Smoak had a breakout year last year, which really kind of came out of nowhere. So it'll be very interesting to see if he can repeat that year. He had 38 home runs, drove in 90. Don't see him repeating that. You've got Troy Tulowitzki, who hasn't played more than 100 games, but maybe once or twice since 2014. Again, he was oft injured last year as well. And you've got Devin Travis, the second baseman, is very skilled. He's a good defensive ball player, can hit the ball. He's another one that cannot stay healthy. So those are some big question marks there. Now, the Blue Jays did bring in Aladimas Diaz from St. Louis, who was a shortstop there, who just really never got it going last year. So he could certainly pick up some at-bats for Tulowitzki if he gets hurt. And Solarte was another one that was brought in to help out at second base, again, if Travis is not able to go. Their pitching staff, again, some regressions last year. Sanchez got hurt after a 1-3 start. They had to use Biagini out of the bullpen as a starter 18 times. He went 3-13. Marco Estrada had the worst year he's had as a Blue Jay. Going 10-9, almost a 5 ERA in 33 starts. Did pitch 186 innings, gave up 31 home runs. So he's got to get that home run number down. He also struck out 176. J-Hap won 20 games in 2016, went 10-11 last year in just 25 starts. He spent some time on the disabled list as well. And Marcus Stroman went 13-9, 33 starts, 201 innings. He was certainly the best pitcher on the staff. They have Jaime Garcia in camp. See, rotation depth, middle relief, whatever. Their closer is Osuna. High ERA for a closer, 3.38. Did save 39 games in 49 attempts. But the Blue Jays, I think they're another fourth-place team here again. And, we'll see what happens with them, certainly if they can answer some of those question marks. But offensively, they have more question marks than Baltimore does. Their pitching could be better than Baltimore's, but they have some guys that took steps backwards last year in Happ and Estrada, and they need to see if Sanchez can stay healthy. So that's where that goes. Tampa Bay is the last team we're going to look at. They pretty much have tried to get rid of everything that's not nailed down. Not as bad as Miami, but certainly not what you were hoping for if you're a Rays fan. So we talked earlier. Logan Morrison is gone with his 38 home runs. Dickerson is now in Pittsburgh. They traded Jake Ottorosi, one of their more reliable starters. He's with the Twins now. They did get C.J. Cron, a first base DH guy, to come in, and he'll serve and give them some at bats. They signed Carlos Gomez to a 1-year, $4 million contract. It looks like he'll end up playing right field for them. Denard Span came over from the Giants in the deal that sent Longoria over to the San Francisco Giants. Span will play left field. So again, it could be an interesting ball club. They're certainly trying to cut payroll wherever they can. Kiermaier comes back, plays center field. In my mind, he's probably the best center fielder in American League, with Pilar a very close second. He's exciting to watch. He's got a cannon for an arm. He got hurt last year, hurt his wrist on a kind of a freak play where he made a diving attempt at a ball and his hand got caught underneath his body. So the Tampa is definitely unfortunately in the position of being the last place team in just an incredibly tough division. And then what's going to be a down year anyway. The one bright spot you might have is maybe you would have been getting to see Brent Honeywell pitch, but it looks like he's going to have to undergo Tommy John surgery. It looks like he's got a torn ulnar collateral ligament. So it looks like TJ surgery for Honeywell, which is a damn shame, actually, because certainly the Rays would have liked to have gotten him some innings this year, if at all possible. So the third base situation, Longoria is gone. Looks like Matt Duffy, you missed all last year, will get the job there. Christian Arroyo, who came over from the Giants in the Longoria trade, if he has a strong spring, actually could force his way into the lineup at third base. And Duffy can play third, can play second, can play short. So if Arroyo were to win the job, then Duffy certainly would be a utility infielder for the Rays as well. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with them. But again, the Rays definitely looks like a last place team. They won 80 and 82 last year. It looks like they're destined for about a 66-67 win season this year. So recapping the division real quick. Again, the Yankees and Red Sox definitely are the cream of the crop in this division. Whoever doesn't win the East certainly will be the number one wild card team. And then you have the Orioles, who I think could be the team in this division that surprises some people, because each of the years they made the playoffs, if you go back and look, they were not projected to do so. They definitely overperformed. Buck Showalter, for whatever reason, has a knack of sometimes getting more out of these players than maybe you should get. But if you get some guys returning to form, if Chris Davis and Mark Trumbo just turn back the clock to 16 instead of 17, where they're hitting 35, 40 home runs each, and you get your normal seasons out of Machado, out of Jones, out of another year like Scope gave you last year, and some of the pitchers can turn it back a little bit too. If Tillman can be the Tillman of 16, not the Tillman of 17, the Orioles have a shot to make a little bit of noise. Again, I don't think they challenge the Yankees or Red Sox, but they certainly could get that second wild card, and anything can happen with that one-game playoff. So, we'll see what happens there. They also ran to Toronto and Tampa, and, in Toronto, it's not a team that gets off to good starts typically. So you could start seeing some of the guys getting moved off that ball club as early as May, maybe June. If they're not doing well. So that's where we're going to be there. So again, thanks everybody for downloading and listening to the episode. We'll do this again next Monday. Have a great week, and again, we'll talk to you next Monday. Thanks again.